She's literally grabbing her arm. It's insane, and none of that was called. Finally, at the end of the one play, they called the foul because it was like indisputable. I mean, she got whacked on the arm and then gets hit to the ground. But they weren't going to call any of the other fouls leading up to it.
The WNBA just got exposed on national television, and they're scrambling to control the damage. ESPN's Rebecca Lobo completely destroyed the league's referees during a live broadcast, calling out their blatant bias against Caitlin Clark. The whole system is crumbling, and the league doesn't know how to handle it. Do you think WNBA referees are intentionally targeting Caitlin Clark, or is this just bad officiating across the board?
The ball handler, there's a grab, there's a hold, there's another grab. I mean,
all of those are
fouls. Every single one of them. And here, that's a foul, and finally they call.
Buckle up, because what happened during Sunday's Indiana Fever versus Dallas Wings game on ESPN is about to change everything. WNBA legend Rebecca Lobo took the referees in the Indiana Fever's game against the Dallas Wings to task on Sunday after they missed clear fouls against Caitlin Clark. And I'm talking about a full-scale public execution of these officials on live television. This wasn't some casual observation from the commentary booth. This was a systematic breakdown of referee incompetence that left the WNBA looking like a complete joke. There's a grab, there's a hold, there's another grab. I mean, all of those are fouls. Every single one of them, Lobo said during the ESPN broadcast. And then here, that's a foul, that's foul. Let me paint you the picture of what actually went down. In the first quarter, Clark was being guarded closely and well out from beyond the three-point line. Lobo specifically pointed to two sequences in which Wings guard JJJ Quinterly was guarding Clark. But this wasn't just regular defense. This was borderline assault that the refs were completely ignoring. There's a grab, there's a hold, there's another grab. All of those are fouls, Lobo stated while the replay was shown on the broadcast. A second replay then plays where Lobo points out two more uncalled fouls before referees finally call something. Think about that for a second. The woman had to point out multiple fouls in real time before the refs finally decided to do their job.
I mean, this is what Caitlin Clark is dealing with. That's a foul as she gets body checked. That's a foul. That's a foul. I mean, it's not only until right now when she's finally whacked on the arm. I'm so happy that the broadcast team finally called it out directly.
The fact that a Hall of Fame player and respected commentator felt compelled to break down referee incompetence during a live broadcast tells you everything you need to know about the state of WNBA officiating. Rebecca Lobo isn't some random YouTuber making conspiracy theories. She's a basketball legend who's been calling games for over a decade. There's a grab, there's a hold, there's another grab. I mean, all of those are fouls, Lobo said. Every single one of them. That's a foul, that's a foul. And finally, they call one of them. The exasperation in her voice was palpable. This is someone who's seen thousands of basketball games, and even she couldn't believe what she was witnessing. But here's where it gets really interesting. Broadcast team breaks down every foul defenders are allowed to get away with on Caitlin Clark. This wasn't just Rebecca Lobo going rogue. The entire ESPN broadcast team was calling out the referees. Ryan Ruocco, the play-by-play announcer, was backing her up throughout the sequence. The timing of this couldn't be worse for the WNBA. They're heading into All-Star Weekend, trying to capitalize on the league's growing popularity, and their most experienced broadcast team is essentially telling the world that their referees are incompetent. That's not the kind of publicity any professional sports league wants.
And this picture that I just came across, I'm like, what are we doing? Kathy Engelbert, she came out, it ain't been that long ago, like 2 weeks ago. Refereeing's pretty good in this league.
What makes this even more damning is that Clark endured several uncalled fouls on one possession during what should have been a showcase game on national television. The Wings were literally treating her like a punching bag, and the refs were just standing there watching it happen. During an offensive possession, ESPN commentator Rebecca Lobo, who recently apologized for using the phrase, "That's what makes America great," during a WNBA game, noted that Clark's defender grabbed and held the Fever superstar multiple times without referees assessing a single foul. The irony here is incredible. Lobo had to apologize for saying something positive about America, but she can call out referee corruption on live television, and nobody bats an eye. This isn't happening in a vacuum either. "I think it's pretty egregious what's been happening to us the last few games," White said of Clark. "The disrespect right now for our team has been pretty unbelievable. So it's disappointing, that it don't go both ways, or it hasn't gone both ways." Even Clark's coach, Stephanie White, has been calling out the officials for weeks.
What league? What league allows this? Can you tell me what kind of a move that Ryan Howard's doing here to Caitlin Clark?
The pattern is becoming impossible to ignore. There's a system to making sure that we can send stuff in and communicate our grievances, so to speak. "I don't know if I have a feeling that the system works," she said. When coaches are openly questioning whether the league's officiating complaint system even works, there's a serious problem. But the WNBA's response has been predictably tone-deaf. Instead of addressing the obvious officiating issues, they're letting their biggest star get mauled on a nightly basis while pretending everything is fine. It's like watching a house burn down while the fire department argues about who's responsible for bringing the hose. The league's refereeing issue goes beyond one player or one game. It's about the need for better and more consistent calls across the W sports. Illustrated even wrote an entire article about how the WNBA's officiating problem is bigger than just Caitlin Clark. But let's be real. Clark is getting the worst of it because she's the most visible target. The systematic nature of this bias is what makes it so infuriating. Compare this system to its fraternal counterpart. NBA referees are salaried employees of the league. WNBA referees are paid by the game and generally work NCAA games in the winter. So you've got part-time officials who are switching between different rulebooks depending on the season. That's like asking a soccer referee to officiate a football game and expecting consistent results. This structural incompetence becomes even more obvious when you consider that NBA referees are salaried employees of the league. WNBA referees are paid by the game and generally work NCAA games in the winter. There are some major underlying differences. The NBA's season is twice as long, and of course, its budget is larger by an order of magnitude. The WNBA is essentially operating with a minor league officiating system while trying to present itself as a major professional sport. The fan reaction to Rebecca Lobo's commentary has been explosive. Throughout the game, she was critical of the refereeing, and the Fever fans were finally relieved that someone was backing them. For months, Clark supporters have been screaming about biased officiating, and now they finally have validation from a Hall of Fame player on national television. But of course, not everyone was happy about Lobo speaking the truth. However, not everyone was on board with Rebecca Lobo's words as fans heavily criticized Lobo's fangirling in the game. Because apparently, pointing out obvious fouls is now considered fangirling, instead of, doing your job as a commentator. The criticism of Lobo exposes another layer of the problem. Rebecca Lobo is the worst commentator. She may as well look for a job working for the team, so much bias. Fever new mascot or PR, marketing, wrote another fan. So now we're at the point where calling out referee incompetence is considered bias. That's some next-level mental gymnastics right there. What these critics don't understand is that Clark had only 25 minutes on the court, adhering to her minutes restriction since coming back from her quad injury. In her limited minutes, she had just 2 personal fouls called on her, which is 2.5 less than her season average. So Clark is getting fewer foul calls than usual, despite being obviously fouled multiple times on one possession alone. The statistical evidence backs up what everyone can see with their own eyes. Jewel Lloyd drew 5.7 personal fouls per game, and this year, Clark is 4th in that list with 4.5 fouls drawn per game. So Clark isn't even getting the most foul calls in the league, despite being the most targeted player. This brings us to the real heart of the issue. Players are suffering more physically overall. It's not just Clark or any other player. The issue is systemic and not a result of favoritism. But here's the thing. When you have systematic problems, certain players are going to be affected more than others. And Clark, as the most visible and most targeted player, is bearing the brunt of this incompetence. The broader context makes this even more damning. Earlier this season, Clark's head coach, Stephanie White, complained that the Fever are frequently on the wrong end of calls from referees. This isn't just about one game or one sequence. It's about a pattern of bias that's been building all season. The disrespect right now for our team has been pretty unbelievable. So, it's disappointing, that It doesn't go both ways, or it hasn't gone both ways. There's a system to making sure that we can send stuff in and communicate our grievances, so to speak. I don't know if I have a feeling that the system works, she said. When coaches are openly questioning the league's ability to address officiating problems, that's a crisis of confidence in the system itself. The timing of all this drama is particularly brutal for the WNBA. The WNBA is heading into its All-Star break this weekend, and the league's popularity has never been higher. They should be celebrating their success, but instead they're dealing with a national television broadcast that basically called their referees incompetent. This controversy isn't limited to Clark either. People on social media were quick to blame the WNBA for not protecting Clark, but she's far from the only player that has expressed frustration with referees this season. Last week, following a loss against the Minnesota Lynx, Chicago Sky forward Angel Reese complained about officials. Even Angel Reese, who's not exactly known for defending Clark, has been calling out the refs. "I don't give a damn if I get fined because that sort is cheap, and I am tired of this shut," Reese said. When Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark are both complaining about the same referees, you know there's a serious problem. These are two players who couldn't be more different, but they're united in their frustration with WNBA officiating. The pattern extends beyond just these two stars. Los Angeles Sparks star Kelsey Plum also had choice words for officials last month. "I've got scratches on my face, I've got scratches on my body, and these guards on the other team get these ticky-tack fouls, and I'm sick of it," Plum said. "I don't know what else to do. It's really frustrating." When multiple all-star players are publicly complaining about the same issues, that's not a coincidence. That's a systemic failure. The physical evidence is undeniable. "I've got scratches on my face, I've got scratches on my body, and these guards on the other team get these ticky-tack fouls, and I'm sick of it," Plum said. Players are literally getting injured because referees won't call obvious fouls. That's not just bad officiating. That's dangerous. But here's what makes the Rebecca Lobo situation so significant. However, it's not just the players and league executives under the microscope, but referees as well. Right now, that spotlight is bright, and the officials are wilting under the increased pressure. For the first time, the referees are facing real scrutiny from respected voices in the media. There are many things that the league needs to fix, but officiating should be right at the top of the list. The WNBA has been able to sweep officiating problems under the rug for years, but now they're being called out on national television by one of their own broadcasters. That's not a crisis they can ignore. The league's response has been predictably weak. Instead of acknowledging the obvious problems, they're letting their officials continue to miss obvious calls while their biggest stars get beaten up on national television. It's like watching a slow-motion car crash where everyone can see what's about to happen, but nobody wants to grab the steering wheel. What makes this even more frustrating is that the solution is obvious. The differences are not just about pay. The WNBA needs to professionalize their officiating system, hire full-time referees, and create accountability for their performance. But instead, they're content to let part-time officials struggle with two different rulebooks while their product suffers. The Rebecca Lobo commentary represents a turning point in this debate. For the first time, someone with real credibility and a platform has publicly called out the system's failures. ESPN on ABC analyst Rebecca Lobo made a point to highlight some controversial missed calls on Caitlin Clark during Sunday's Fever Wings game. This wasn't some random fan on social media. This was a Hall of Fame player and respected commentator doing her job. The fact that this happened on ABC makes it even more significant. ESPN on ABC analyst Rebecca Lobo made a point to highlight some controversial missed calls on Caitlin Clark during Sunday's Fever Wings game. This is the WNBA's broadcast partner essentially telling their viewers that the product is being damaged by poor officiating. What's particularly damaging is that Clark has been thrown around in the league ever since her rookie year. She had 17% of all flagrants last year, plus had the second most personal fouls drawn with 4.5. So this isn't a new problem. It's been building for over a year while the league did nothing about it. The physical toll on Clark is becoming obvious. Clark has dealt with injuries over the course of the 2025 season. Sunday's game against the Wings was only her 12th appearance of the year. The league's most popular player is missing games because referees won't protect her from obvious fouls. That's not just incompetence, that's negligence. Despite all the missed calls, Clark still managed to dominate the game. She finished with 14 points, 13 assists, and 5 steals in 25 minutes against the Wings. Clark was 4 of 12 from the field and 2 of 7 from three-point range. Imagine what she could do if referees actually called the game fairly. The broader implications of this controversy are staggering. The question of what to do with WNBA reffing will likely continue to dominate the 2025 season and could perhaps spur a push for league-wide reform before next year. Rebecca Lobo's commentary might be the catalyst that finally forces the league to address these systemic problems. But let's be honest about what's really happening here. The WNBA has created a culture where their most popular player can be fouled repeatedly on national television, while their own broadcast team calls out the referees for missing obvious calls. That's not a sustainable business model. That's a recipe for disaster. The league's credibility is hanging by a thread, and Rebecca Lobo just cut most of it. When your own broadcast partners are publicly questioning your officials' competence, you've got a crisis that goes far beyond just bad calls. You've got a systemic failure that's being exposed on the biggest stage possible. The WNBA needs to decide whether they want to be a professional sports league or a recreational league with professional aspirations. Right now, they're stuck in the middle, with part-time officials trying to handle the intensity of professional basketball while their biggest stars get mauled on national television. Rebecca Lobo's commentary was a wake-up call that the WNBA desperately needed. The question is whether they'll actually listen to it or continue pretending that everything is fine while their product suffers. Based on their track record, I'm not optimistic. Rebecca Lobo just exposed the WNBA's dirty little secret on national television, and the league is scrambling to contain the damage. The referee corruption is real, and now everyone knows it. What do you think the WNBA should do about these incompetent officials? Drop your thoughts below, smash that like button, and subscribe for more truth bombs.